Let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to another edition of Egberto Off the Record. Today, I'm going to have a chat. I'm honored to have Elizabeth Silleck LaRue. I hope I said the name correctly. And she is of the how do you say that? The Conscientious Emigrant. I want to welcome you to another edition of Egberto Off the Record. How you doing today, my dear friend?
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I am well. And it is the Conscientious Emigrant is the publication that is my primary publication, which is for my Conscientious Emigration services. And I also have a publication called Starving Jungle Fever, which is about the racialized hostilities and unpacking the baggage of being an interracial family. So, yeah, but that's not what we're here to talk about today.
We're here. Actually, the reality is, my dear, is we're here to talk about whatever is important. And you know what? Who else many times guide our conversation? Some people ask questions and I follow them. And the type of program that I do, I always let the audience dictate if they change. But anyway, we have a lot to talk about. But before we get started, tell us a little bit about you, because I'm intrigued by not only what you do, but where you're at and why you do it. So tell us a little bit about you.
Sure. So I am born and raised in New York. I grew up there and stayed till I was 30 years old. I was a teen mother. I was in an interracial family. And I went through education spanning issues from women's studies and, sort of race, class, and gender analysis until I finally went to law school and studied environmental law. So my career has been a mashup of these issues surrounding environmental conservation and equity and societal oppression and all of those dynamics, both in the U.S. and globally. And then in 2022, after many years of thinking about it, my husband and I moved from Florida to Mexico. And the primary driver of that, well, I'll say two drivers of that were racialized hostility toward us. My husband is a Black man, and I read about that on Starving Jungle Fever quite often. And gentrification of where we were. And so after being in Mexico for a little while, and I should mention also I had a lot of experience with the U.S. immigration system, having grown up in an immigrant population neighborhood and having been previously married to a Latino American immigrant who I helped get his permanent residency in the US. So after we got here, I started finding myself talking to other people who wanted to leave the US for similar reasons. At that point, we did not know what the 2024 US election was going to bring, but we knew that the rise in fascist sentiment was there, right? We were facing it in very real terms at the grocery store, in the parking lot. And so I started talking to people about our move and how to emigrate, and did a lot of research and studying. And then I launched my own business line, which is Conscientious Emigration. And we focus on people who want to leave the U.S. because of these dynamics, and particularly people who are, marginalized in the sights of Project 2025, and who are conscientious about their impacts on the places where they're going, intentional about not replicating these colonial patterns and gentrification. So that's kind of where I am. But what has been getting on my nerves lately, and what I wrote about, and what
But before you go there, because we want to talk about what you wrote about, but before we go there, I just wanted to say how impressed I was when one of the first things we discussed with you moving to Mexico, that you said you wanted to ensure it. I'm paraphrasing now, but you wanted to ensure that the impact that you had on the community where you live and where you're bringing people to live is not negatively impacted by the difference in consumer power of those coming into the community. I think, in as much as we want to talk about that paper, believe it or not, what you're saying there is not only impactful in Mexico, it's impactful in every area underdeveloped in the United States where people are seeing it as a cheap way to build capitalist wealth. So let's expand on that a bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say also that there's a really strong nexus between this trend of, neocolonialism, gentrification, and environmental destruction. So one of the things that happens, and this happens in the United States, it's happening in Puerto Rico now, it happens in Florida, is that when we have natural disasters that come in and essentially make places unlivable, make developed areas unlivable, the local populace, if they're poor, and particularly if they're Black or Latino, they get pushed out, they get displaced, and then developers come in there. I mean, developers are sniffing it out, right? As soon as the NOAA makes an announcement that there's a hurricane coming, the developers are sniffing out that property. And then they're building luxury high rises. And, I mean, obviously, we know this is a story. And so the environmental nexus is also really important. And to your point about the consumer power, another environmental consequence of that outsized consumer power is that people who have what is considered a little bit of money in the United States can come to a place like Panama, Belize, less so in Mexico. It's getting a little harder in Mexico because it's getting more expensive. But, purchase a big swath of forest and tear it down. And I mean, people who are not in the environmental field, I was working in environmental policy for 20 years. They don't necessarily know all of the implications of doing that, but I mean, it's catastrophic. And, they'll level a forest and they'll put up, a set of condos, and maybe they'll live in one, and then they'll rent out the other to tourists. And it's at inflated prices, which then drives up the housing prices for everyone else. In Mexico City, there's backlash, serious backlash, protesters, and all of that. So there's a nexus between the economic impact, the environmental impact, and the cultural impact, which is what we hear about all the time. And I think my first article that really took off on Substack was called How to Avoid Being an Ugly American. And that was focusing largely on the cultural aspect, the sort of moving to a Spanish speaking country and not speaking any Spanish, and demanding that things are done your way, and not, demanding that the types of products that you want will be there, and then putting up a cafe or whatever that only caters to expats. And I mean, case in point, one of my clients actually told me the other day that they had visited Honduras, and they had come across what my client described as a cult, an expat cult. And they had established sort of like this HOA type of,
Mhm.
situation. And they had to, you had to apply to be part of it. And I mean, it sounded like, these whites only
It's
colonies.
segregation. Yeah, it's a sort of segregation. Absolutely. And the idea, if you're going into another country, you should be wanting to go into that country to integrate, to understand, and to enjoy the culture. I mean, that is what, wherever I go, that's what I want to do. I'm not trying to carry a little Panama to the United States. I'm not trying to carry a little United States to anywhere that I go. I'm there to be a part of what these people are.
Exactly, exactly. So when I was thinking about, okay, I want to help people leave, but number one, I want to prioritize people who are leaving for the reasons that we were leaving, which was safety, really. I mean, it was about safety, psychological safety and physical safety in our case, because we were in Southwest Florida, like, Confederate flags flying.
Mhm.
I've written ad nauseum about this. It was scary. And for, psychological safety, because the anxiety of living someplace where you feel like you're being targeted, and where you are, in fact, being targeted, I'm sure I mean, let's be honest, like, they're looking for you. I'm
Absolutely.
like, and so I was like, okay, I want to help people that are in those positions. And I want to make sure that they understand even those who are marginalized, because marginalized people are not exempt from needing to go and behave do the right thing in another country. And marginalized people are perfectly capable of going to another country and exhibiting the same problematic behaviors and doing the same thing with their money and environmental destruction. Like, nobody's exempt from this, right? So those are my two kind of criteria. Um, and so by writing about this a lot, I finally alienated a lot of people who I don't want to work with.
Well,
um, and it's great. It's great. I love it.
let me tell you, to me, it's not about alienating, it's about educating. And I think most people, if we do it the right way, I don't know if you remember David Brooks, that conservative writer from the New York Times. He's a very conservative guy and always came out defending the conservative values, etc. And he wrote a piece. I mean, he's tired of the MAGA conservatives now and not realizing that he has responsibility for their behavior, etc. And what he wrote in effect is that the reason why these people have changed and they've gone bad is because of the overbearingness of liberals, the left. It's our fault that MAGA was created. It's our fault that these guys don't believe in climate science, that these guys believe that Earth is 6,000 years old, and all these things. It's our fault. Of course, it's nonsense. But the reason I brought that up is what you just said, right? You've lost a lot of people because of your frankness. And my thing is, first of all, a lot of the people that you've lost for your frankness are those that we call, they are immutable. There's no goodness there that's immutable. But there are, and I've found a lot of these on Substack. I've found a lot of MAGA folks as well who listen to my live radio program who actually want to learn this stuff. And the problem is there's nobody who is living it like you are that can actually point out what's happening. What do I mean? You actually see the effects of another quasi-colonialism happening as people move into these areas. They may be of not large means in the United States, but because of exchange rates and other things, they're doing very well in Mexico. And in that regards, they can affect pricing. And if they don't understand that and find a measured ground where there's certain economic things they cannot control, but there are other things they can. They can give, they can donate, they can open things. I mean, there's so much you can do when you have the means to do it. And you educating folks ensure that when they go over there, they actually have it's conscious within them that there's a cause and effect when they move over there. So on that issue and on your ability to do that, thank you. I think it's important that we have more people like you that will take the bull by the horns and say, we're not just going to do the easy thing. We're going to actually go out there and sometimes make people a little uncomfortable, but out of that discomfort comes quite a bit. Now let's get to your paper. What irks you so much?
Oh, it irks me. Okay, well, first, let's set the context for this, right? So I wrote this article about, that you can't. I don't think you can be an expert and be anonymous at the same time. I think it's inconsistent. And but the context for this is important. And I don't know that I necessarily would have even thought to write this if we were, talking 10 years ago. But we are in a context where, the Bureau of Labor Statistics is no longer credible, right? We have anti-science, anti-vax people that literally got people killed during a pandemic because of dishonesty and misinformation, disinformation. We have elections that have been, influenced by trolls that are paid by foreign countries. Like, we know that online discourse is dramatically damaged by falsehood, right? Falsehoods that are being promoted by people who are misleading and misidentifying themselves. right? So that's the broader context for this conversation. We know that's a problem. And then we see that we have accounts on Substack, on Medium, on LinkedIn, on any platform you look at that are not identifiable, that are not, there are not real people behind them, or the real people behind them are misleading and misrepresenting themselves. And they shoot to the top and they get to make all this money off of it. And that pisses me off because I am a working class person. I have the ESQ at the end of my name. I studied law. I went to law school. I passed the bar. I did all that. Nevertheless, I've worked in nonprofit all my life. I come from a working class background. I don't have a lot of money. And to see, in the context of, where we have grifters all over the place, everywhere you look, vulnerable people that are afraid, that are losing their jobs, that are, just full of fear and easily taken advantage of. And then you have people who are earning all of this money behind these profiles that we don't know who they are. They claim expertise. There's no way to verify, right? They claim that they have experience that there's no way to verify. They claim that they have credentials that there's no way to verify. And people are eating it up and subscribing and paying for their digital products and their, this, that, and the other. Meanwhile, humans like us are out there writing under our actual names, taking risks. I mean, it's, I write about MAGA. I write about Trump. I write about being in an interracial relationship. All of these things can potentially make me a target. And yet I'm here saying it with my full chest and my full name. And I just think that there's an inequity in this phenomenon that these people, or maybe they're people, maybe they're not people, but that they are being amplified over the actual humans, even while they're plagiarizing us, even while they're scraping our creative writing that came from our brains, our experience, right? Our creative brilliance that they're scraping to amplify themselves, and they're getting rich off of it. This is a problem.
That is a huge problem, and I'm glad that you are so articulate in stating that. I want to, and I think why it is so important for us to make that case is, I'm going to lay it out as civilly as I can. The mainstream media is controlled by corporations. Now that they are flailing, what we see is that many of the mainstream media and many are creating mini mainstream medias here on Substack and on Twitter and on TikTok and on Instagram. But the thing about it, difference is, whereas originally on Substack, we all knew that we were a whole bunch of laissez-faire professionals coming on this platform and writing and doing a whole lot of stuff, researching on our own. We knew that. But now what these guys have used is they've used our independence to use and attach it to their notoriety from the mainstream media where they've had a lot more eyeballs and maximize it here. I tell you, there's a woman, her name is Carol Claire Berkey on TikTok. And she has a message so similar to yours. And I just sent her a note saying, I'd like to talk to you. And what she said is, and believe it or not, this part is sort of on the quote unquote left, but the neoliberal left. What's occurring on TikTok is a lot of influencers are now getting paid as much as $8,000 a month. $8,000 a month to come up with material, maybe once a day, once a couple times a week. And who's paying them? Neoliberal shadow organizations. And but all they talk about is the democratic neoliberal message, not the message of the working class, not the messages of which you talk about. And her contention is exactly like yours. You said, why aren't these people's faces out? There's another thing behind it. It's not only the people's faces that are not out. In this case, these people's faces are out, but their funding isn't. So it's another level of indirection. You see?
In the environmental world, in the environmental political advocacy world, we call it astroturf. So as
Right.
opposed to grassroots, you know, it's astroturf. It makes it gives the appearance of authenticity when the actual people pulling the levers are associated with companies that would preclude them from being involved in the conversation at all, right? Because they have a conflict of interest.
Hmm.
Um, and it's yes, it's part of the same overall trajectory toward fraudulent, you know, opaque sort of leveraging of, you know, people's images and people's reputations to advance their agendas. And, you know, I'm just to me, look, it's perfectly okay to be in you know, to have the position that you have and say what you want to say, even if I
Exactly.
you. But don't piss on my leg and tell me it's raining. That's
Right.
something I say in New York. And it really, really bothers me that, you know, we have people, I'll give you to the point about compensation. This bothers me. Okay. And if this bothers you too, people out here, show me some hearts because this really, really bothers me. When people say, well, the reason I write behind an avatar and a fake name on Substack or wherever is because I don't want to get fired from my job for stating my political opinions about Trump, about MAGA. You know, I have clients that are conservative, my employer's conservative, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So you're telling me that out one side of your mouth, you're telling your clients and your employers that you're, yay, Trump, Trump's all good, so you can get that check. And then the other side of your mouth, you're over here talking behind this avatar and this fake name and saying, oh, MAGA's the devil and blah, blah, blah. You're getting paid by both of them. How is that fair? Explain to me how I should respect you and how I should take your position as equal to mine when I'm here saying it with my full name. And I'm here at literally ruling out. I mean, I don't have MAGA supporters. I can tell you that right now. I won't take a client if they tell me they voted for Trump. Period. Because to me, that's inconsistent. How am I helping people leave the United States because they're persecuted? And then also helping this person who voted for someone who persecuted them. No, that's me. You don't have to take that position, but
Oh, no,
but
no, that should be the position. I mean, it's not about
wait,
me taking the position.
how you're doing that on
Right.
Substack? You know, you want to protect your conservative clients over here, protect yourself, insulate yourself from any economic consequences by, you know, catering to your clients under your real identity. And then you want to be over here talking about how MAGA's the devil and making money from people who believe that. No, that's duplicitous.
It's actually called double dipping, right? Yeah. So I mean, I tell you, we have to be careful about all of that, right? I mean, and how we actually, and it's not only about the people that are doing it, but it's a corporation that we claim that we as people say, oh, good corporation or whatever. I have a friend, very good friend, executive, worked for a corporation, an oil company that decided they wanted to look good. They went ahead and they created this renewable fuel kind of a deal, and this person became an executive in that company that they spun off all that good stuff. And
Mm.
as soon as Trump came into office, that spinoff that was making a whole lot of money off of Biden's subsidies, they didn't give a damn about anything. It was shut down and everybody laid off,
It was
right?
greenwashing.
Right. And that's the same thing. That's the same thing with Substackers or TikTokers or Instagrammers, etc., who come on this platform and mislead our friends. But let me tell you, the truth of the matter is it's not hard to figure out if people are informed about how to look at these things. And if people are informed, they can make the right choice. You and I, this is my job. My job is informing. My job is creating videos for the progressive, our progressive movement, etc. That is all that I do. That is all that pays me. When somebody becomes a subscriber, That is how I am funded. It irks me, however, as you say, that somebody, because they have notoriety. First of all, I rank against the mainstream media. Yesterday, let's give an example. The day that they went on and they invaded Bolton's home,
Mm-hmm.
that's all the mainstream media spoke about 90% of the times. Nothing changed, no new information, nothing. But at the same time, in a couple months, people are losing their subsidies for their health care. They're going to, instead of paying $700, will pay $1,400 for their insurance bills. In people in nursing homes starting next year, when they're reevaluated for Medicaid, a lot of people that are not poor but are marginal are in nursing homes on Medicaid. And as soon as the price of their home appreciates, they will, on requalification, lose their Medicaid. I can go on and on with issues that I've itemized bill after bill that's in this bill. Americans, those of you that are listening to me right now, a lot of folks don't know that, Elizabeth. A lot of folks don't know that. But the mainstream media continues to speak about this. The issue of 2 kids getting killed, murdered yesterday, is something that should have been on everybody's lips, not when these kids got killed, because these mass shootings occur every day. Not, it's just that these people are worthy of being on TV because it's the right kind of people that got shot up yesterday. But people are shot up every day. There are mass killings every day.
And they have this narrative now, the one time in I don't know how many years that the person who was a shooter, the murderer, is a trans person. They were jumped right on that.
Oh, but let me tell you,
right on that.
I was so
to find out about your typical 20-year-old white cis male that does it, who are the leading demographic in mass shootings. But yeah, I know.
Let me tell you what gave me pleasure on this one. And I hate to use this and say pleasure because it's not real pleasure. But that is an argument the MAGA callers to my program this morning brought up. Oh, look at who it is. It's a lefty trans person that committed the crime. And I made them go on because I wanted them to go on and on and on. And then I said, first of all, that's not the issue. The issue is that person who had mental problems, not because of a trans issue, but had mental problems, was able to get 3 guns legally, were able to buy ammunition. This has nothing to do with trans or not trans or whatever. Could do all these things because all the laws that we attempted to pass that would have mitigated that killing, the NRA, the Republican Party, and neoliberal Democrats refused to pass the policies that would solve that issue.
Yep.
I mean,
and then the ice.
End of discussion right there. End of discussion. Because again, when you are on the right side, you can't bring up all this ancillary junk, but you have to be ready for that. And guess who's ready for that? We are, Elizabeth. We are ready to answer those questions. When I'm watching these pundits on TV, I'm asking, why didn't you say this? Why didn't you say that? Why aren't you doing that? But they're getting hundreds of thousands of dollars to be the professionals. And you and I who live it, you and I who live with the working class, because we are the working class, we have to convince our listeners, hey, we are worth a paid subscription. We are worth it. Guess what? We tell you the real story for cheap. And if you listen to us, we can actually change the country because there are a lot of us. It's more of us than those who are misleading you. But they are a part of the same, Elizabeth, they are part of the same cabal. It's a closed circuit talking among each other as we sit down as spectators and watch and pay them for our own demise.
Absolutely. And we already know that the silencing of dissent is on the agenda. So not
Yes.
only up against the inequity financially speaking and in terms of visibility and platform, amplification and all of that, but at a certain point, there's going to be consequences.
Right.
There's going to be consequences for us. And that's why I'm like, no. Ironically, I got a couple messages from people who, shocker, hide behind avatars and fake names that were like, well, I disagree with you saying that we shouldn't get paid for. Of course you disagree. Why are you behind that avatar and why are you behind that fake name? Because you're benefiting somehow from the system that you're critiquing out the other side of your mouth. So you tell me why somebody should give you money over me when I'm actually making a sacrifice to tell the truth. Why?
You nailed it. Let me tell you what I would have answered them as well, my friend. I would say no. First of all, please feel free to put all those words out. I'll amplify your message as well. But please don't ask for contributions on this stuff when there are people using their names and putting themselves at risk to put it out. Let me tell you, you can look at the news about 10 years ago. It made it on CNN, CBS, ABC. My home was firebombed. Okay. We have the videos of people, of not people, of a guy walking in front of my home, putting the Roman candles in the shrubbery and running off, and it's shooting all over my front door and the roof, etc. The Roman candles going, and my daughter about to go to the door and panicking in the home as all these fireworks are hitting the door, etc. We take the risk.
My God.
I am the one. We are the ones that we go out there, and you have somebody follow you sometimes, and you drive around and you make sure what you're doing because they know who you are, right? So I mean, um, if these guys want to impress us, they would use some of those MAGA dollars and conservative dollars that they're getting and
Bingo.
then donate to those who are doing it and saying, I need to make money. Okay, I understand you need to feed your family. But also, if you really want to show your validity to the movement, then maybe you should be one of our largest subscribers.
Amen. Founding member. I don't even have a
You should be a
founding.
founding member to show your commitment to truth, to show your commitment. Okay, I am going to use these people dollars. Let me give an example, Elizabeth. There a long time ago, when you remember, if you had a website, you could make a lot of money just putting that ad roller on, right? So I had an ad roller on my website. And every now and then, an ExxonMobil app ad would come, or every now and then, a racist ad would show up. And one of my, regular readers would send me an email, hey, look at what's showing up at your website, and they'll give me hell. And I would say, look, I have a choice. I can take the roller off the website, and all that material that I give you is no longer there. Or I can rethink, and I can say, imagine unfettered capitalism is paying for me to take it down. To take on, in other words, I'm saying, if I am using this, just like I told you for that guy who's taking that money from that lawyer who's taking money for that, if he's going to go ahead and subscribe to Elizabeth Silleck LaRue ESQ, that's the atonement. And go ahead, please.
Yes, and not speaking to the roller on your website, but speaking to the people that are holding themselves. There's an additional responsibility on top of what you're talking about with the financial contribution and the acknowledgement that, okay, I am prioritizing my day job or my clients that are conservative, and so I can't show my face because I will lose that business. Yes, take that money and amplify the people that are putting themselves at risk. But on top of that, though, my additional problem with people who are holding themselves out as experts and writing as experts is that regardless of whether they do that or not, they cannot be trusted and they cannot be held accountable because you don't know who they are. So if they
Exactly.
plagiarize you, you can't do anything about it. If they defame you, and you know this about trolls, right? I mean, the
Yes.
bulk of people that say the worst things about me, the things that have been
Yes.
said online by people that are not people, right? Who have tens of thousands of followers, right? But and they feel comfortable writing things down, attacking my personal character without knowing me, right? I can't do anything about that because I don't know who they are. And I can't even come back at them and say, well, what about you doing X, Y, and Z? Not that I would do that, because no, I'm too grown for that. But if I wanted to do that, I couldn't even do it because I don't know who they are. And neither do those tens of thousands of followers. So this to me gets to a bigger issue of our collective problem critically thinking and discerning between somebody that actually has the ability to say to you, I'm an expert because I went to this school, got this degree, I have this experience, I worked for these organizations, I worked for this government agency. People can say whatever the hell they want about themselves when they're hiding behind an avatar and a fake name. You have
Amen.
no way
Yes.
to verify what they. I mean, you wouldn't do this in real life, right? And that's the thing. I think you and I, I'm 46. I don't know how old you are, but we're
I'm an old
probably.
man. I've already closed 6 decades.
Oh, okay, okay, good job, good job. You look good. But my point being, we are from the era where we didn't have the internet, right? So the idea of putting your trust in some phantom, hidden, masked creature that may or may not even be human in order to gain expert advice on things like finance and law and emigration and to digest media that is holding itself out to be accurate and factual by people that you don't know who they are. That's a problem. That's how we got into the mess, right? Like the Russian propaganda was delivered through nefarious
Mhm.
means. And so outside, even if you are doing all that, and let's say you're a real genuine person and you're really trying to do the right thing, and you're like, the way I can do the right thing is by spouting my opinions online, but behind this mask. And then you go and support all these people. You also can't sit there and tell me that as between me and another person, and me as between me and you, they should listen to you more
No,
because we hell you are.
and
Period. Point.
that is the importance of your paper, Elizabeth. That is the importance of this discourse that we're having here, right? Because we can't when somebody picks up on Substack, whether they get it through search engines or they get it through an email or however, they are not there necessarily to think about uh, all the things that you brought up. They don't do that. Nobody does that naturally. But
Scroll.
when you, right, but when you bring it up as a subject for all of the people that are listening to us right now, the next time they see a paper, they're going to start saying accountability. They're going to start saying, should I listen to this person more? Or if they get a difference in opinion between what you have to say and what somebody hiding behind a mask has to say, because of what you did with your paper, people
Oh,
have a second thought. And look, it's not only your paper, it's as we promote the things that many of us say, it's going to be a learning experience, even here on Substack. We have a whole lot of mainstream media people coming on to Substack. They've garnered tens of thousands of paid subscribers while we are trying to get hundreds. They're getting tens of thousands of these paid subscribers. And what they're doing often is regurgitating what they did on mainstream media, which you and I and a lot of other folks right now understand. We gave that example of the coverage of the last week, how poor the coverage of the last week that actually is impactful to the lives of people are. But as we start to speak about this, not in some sort of an envious way, look, that that Acosta came on and got.
Well, I'm envious. I would like to be able to pay my mortgage off of Substack subscriptions. Yes,
But
I am.
no, I know you said you're envious, but no, Elizabeth, I'm not going to let you slide with that. I won't. You want to be given your worth, Elizabeth. Comparative worth, right? It is the same thing that I talk about the capitalists being the parasites and the rest of us being the workers, right? In other
Yes,
words,
yes,
people always talk about the reason we want capitalism is because, as Gecko said, greed is good. Greed is not good. In fact, it's worse than that, because if all of us were greedy, there would be no Gecko. I know Gecko is imaginary. I don't know if you saw Wall Street, the movie. But if you haven't seen the Wall Street, the movie, Gecko is a master capitalist that says greed is good. And the only reason capitalism works is because people are greedy and everybody wants it. It's false. Most people are not greedy. Most
correct,
people are good people. That's
correct.
why you have an engineer working for a salary, while the person who actually makes the money in the company is the capitalist. That is why you have the teacher teaching, moving knowledge forward, while the people who make the money is the capitalists who don't want to pay the taxes for the teachers who educate his kids.
Yep.
When you look at the doctor is the one doing the work, but the person who owns the hospital, the insurance that insures that doctor, the hospital at which he works, who owns the stockholders in that hospital, they're the ones that make the money. The doctor does the work. He has to pay high insurance rates. He has to pay for his high education rate. You, as a lawyer who helps a lot of people, has to pay that very high amount of money that educated you for the work that you're doing. So
Oh
let's
yeah.
get real here.
I put in loans until the day I die.
Right. Let's get real, Elizabeth. Let's get real. You are not envious. You are asking for what you're worth.
You're right. You're right. No,
You are asking for what you're worth.
But what I will say is that I don't I don't feel guilty about stating very clearly that I think, rather than putting subscription dollars in the accounts of people who are either bought and paid for, right? Or anonymous, and instead subscribe to people like Alberto who are educating you on
Or
what's happening
Elizabeth,
in
right?
business, or on me for telling my personal stories, for advising on how to emigrate conscientiously, or all of it. In that article, I tagged a bunch of other authors that I know are
Oh,
real
thank you
people.
for tagging me. I saw you tag me, and I'm like, I'm honored. I mean, because I
People that
respect your writing.
Thank you. I respect everything that, every time I tune in, which I don't do much because I do serve clients, so I can't be on. So that's the other thing. Some of us can't be on Substack all day, right? And
Hmm.
some of the people that are doing this, right, that are shielding their identities and rising to the top, they're on Substack all day, and I can't do that. I mean, there's no cushion for me to wait
Right.
until I get to a point where that can pay my bills. So, and I like serving clients anyway. Actually, part of my ethic and part of not ethic, but part of my survival strategy, which I recommend for people who are emigrating and for everyone at this point, is don't put all your eggs in one basket. Have multiple ways that you're earning income, because when one falls, you need something else to fall back on.
Hmm.
But point being, I see that you're speaking truth. I see you're speaking truth, standing behind it with your own name, taking those risks. All of those authors that I tagged, they talk about things that are now politically dangerous to talk about. And they do it their own names. Some of them have hundreds of thousands of subscribers or tens of thousands, and some of them don't. But they do it behind their own names. They stand by what they say. And that's who you should be putting your money in the pockets of. And all the anonymous accounts out there that are going to say they don't like that, you're the exact reason why I'm saying it.
And so, it's funny. My daughter walked into my studio and she said, "Dad, what are you doing to protect?" My daughter had 2 strokes. She now is a teacher even with her left side deficiency, etc. I love her to death. She's really made a huge recovery. And, so she's a teacher and she comes in and she says, out of the blue, she looked at me and she saw some of the stuff that I was writing and some of the things that I was putting out. And she said, "Dad, what are you doing to protect yourself? Are you really, because she's like, people are starting to talk about the things that you're doing. And what are you doing to protect yourself? I said, I'm not a fool. I really, I try to be aware of the surroundings, etc. But back to what you're saying, we do that because we know that we have to do, based on who we are, we do this because we have to do it. And we'll continue doing this as best we can. And you know what? Nothing is going to stop that. I think as people speak out like you did in the document that you wrote, and others like Weems got, we had a discussion on that as well. And Marlon, I love me some Marlon. Marlon had a lot to say about that as well. And of course, my buddy from Cuba, he did as well too. So I mean, look.
Well, I also think that you guys should consider getting out of the U.S. if you can. I'm just saying.
Well, whenever I do that, I'm going to be coming to you for your services and say, hey, llévame a México. Quiero irme a México, conseguir un lugar para quedarme y todo.
I love it. I love it. I've been coming to Mexico for 14 years because I'm a scuba diver. That's, my environmental background is part out of my love for the ocean. And man, it's amazing. And yeah, I mean, y'all both should consider it.
Let me tell you, it would, as I get older, like I said, I finally reached my 6 decades. I can't believe it. I'm like, oh my God, you mean as soon I will be able to say, I am going to choose Medicare and not Medicare Advantage like I've been telling people for decades. It's starting to feel good. You 40-year-old woman, let me tell you, when you hit that point and know that, well, maybe I won't have to deal with private insurance anymore. Well, I still have a few years away from it, but still, it's amazing. But look, we got to get out of here. So let me ask you to give me a closer. I can't tell you how much I enjoyed talking to you. I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed learning about you, because I think the brilliance that we have from a lot of Substackers that are there for the passion and are there to really make a difference, not just to get a buck.
Huh?
I am in love. I am in love with it. I work 16 hours a day, but you know what I can say? I love it. Because, you said, I can't be on Substack all the time. I can't either. So the other times I have to be processing videos, writing, researching. So
it's a lot. It's a lot. And without having that, huge platform making all that money, you can't hire other people to help you out with it either. And some of these people damn sure can. To close it out, I will say we are losing our humanity collectively. We are losing our humanity and our contact with other humans at a human level. And it's having consequences. Asiana Teppenfart, I think that's how you say her name, I'm not sure. She wrote about this new AI-centered religion, people thinking that AI is God. There's an AI cult now. I mean, this is how deep people are having relationships with ChatGPT. This is insane. This is sick. This is not normal. This is not healthy, and it's not inevitable. And what I want to close out and say is support other human beings that are legitimate human beings and having the cojones to be who they are, to say what they think, and to do it behind their identity. Those are the people we need to be supporting.
Folks, please, not only share Elizabeth Silleck LaRue's Substack, but if you have the wherewithal to do so, please become subscribers, paid subscribers, just like I asked to be paid subscribers for myself as well, because we are going to be here and we are going to be real. We will be here and we will be real. I want to give you a big thank you. It was my honor to speak to you, Elizabeth. And I hope we do this again. No, we do this not again, but we do this more often, because I think this is something people need to hear about. And for those that are listening, those that are watching, I want to thank you for your eyeballs. I want to thank you for your ears. We love you. That's the reason we do this. We love you. thank you so kindly. Thank you for listening and supporting both Elizabeth and Egberto off the record. And you know how we end this baby. We are going to say, I'm out, but bye-bye.
Bye.